Hey, what's up everyone? Zoko here, and today I'm going to be showing how to speedrun Garden of Genesis. This is intended for people trying to grind up their gear score, so while this won't necessarily be a true speedrun in a sense, I'm pretty much showing the most efficient way to go about this. There are mistakes at times during this, I will point them out when they pop up, but knowing how this works is very helpful, so if you join a group that is going about it this way, you get kind of the gist and you don't need things explained to you. Also, this is how my group does Genesis to earn gold on M10. This is the regular dungeon we are rolling through because this is, again, aimed towards people grinding their gear score up. This is a companion video with another one I did recently, but people should understand pretty much everything we do is replicated during an M10 run. The credit for me learning all of this goes to my group. They are also the ones running through this with me at my request. We did a few runs of this so I could gather a few different perspectives, so there will be cuts in this video as I show different angles, but a big thank you to them for their patience. So a few times during this we are trying to group up mobs so we could just AoE them down at the same time in an effort to be more efficient. For instance, we're doing this with this first hive right here. Going through the door, one person from our group will break off to the left and mine a piece of blight that's towards the end of the room down below. There is an archer down there at the bottom, so be mindful of that when you are mining. It is not uncommon to pull him though and have to bring him back up to fight with the group. Back at the bridge, you will find an archer and a soldier. You can completely avoid the soldier if you're careful. Generally, you want to do this in this dungeon because he has some massive hits that can one-shot you or one-shot some players if they have lower constitution or light armor. The biggest reason he gets pulled is usually the archer puts his back to him and then does their leap back attack. Basically, landing near the soldier close enough will cause him to aggro you. If you have to kill him, oh well, another chance at a drop, I guess. As soon as your player mines the blight, the door at the end of the bridge will open, and hopefully you have dispatched the archer at this point, and you can immediately proceed to the boss. You will find him standing in a blight pool, so pulling him out of that is generally a good idea. Heavy attacks are a really good play against this boss. You can kneecap him pretty easily and then just start wailing away while he's stunned on the ground. Usually what you want to do, but be mindful he has a spear throw, and that one hurts pretty bad. It's pretty easy to dodge, so it shouldn't be too bad. After that, you will run past a respawn point and down some stairs. Hugging the right side of the stairs and then jumping over a vine can save some headache by avoiding some of the mobs there. The ones we do pull, however, we are going to group over here and then AoE them down again. We will also pull an archer during this fight that we have to take care of separately because he's not going to get close enough to be able to be efficient with it probably. Whoever mined the blight in the beginning will then go to this shrine and create the Azoth seed. They will then plant this seed at this weird magical soil spot. You then defend the tree from 3 waves of enemies. Trying to pull the enemies away from the tree is generally a good idea. If you have insane DPS, it might not matter too much, but developing good habits can make a run with a pug a bit easier. After fighting off the final wave, you will then gather a branch from the tree you just planted. There is a chest to the left for you to loot. Afterwards, we are going to be running down the stairs. This is very important. Hugging the tree to the right. Doing this properly saves quite a few mobs that are on your left. There's like a hive and a bunch of trash right there. It's just going to be a pretty big headache when you have to fight this big guy down by the blight pool up here. After killing him, we are going to run past this mob at the stairs right here. They will pursue us shortly, but reset fairly quickly, so we don't need to waste time in killing them. Hug the left wall so you can avoid this soldier at the top of the stairs. Be mindful of the gap in the floor just ahead. And then up the stairs, there's another archer that you have to fight. You can fight them here if you want. In terms of efficiency, it's best to pull them to the Caretaker fight. And while the boss is doing their initial animation once pulled, which takes a few seconds for them to go through, we can actually take these mob and AoE them down that have been following us. We're going to pick up, I think we pick up like one more as well. Now for the Caretaker, I'm going to show a few different perspectives. This is the hardest fight in the dungeon, so getting through this, it is pretty much downhill here on out. So there are 2 different methods for this fight. At a certain point, the boss will create a wall signified by a green circle on the ground that usually happens about halfway down their health. Generally, if your group has good DPS, you can just stay inside. This is called the all-in method, and if you don't, then 4 of you will go outside. That is known as the 1-4 method or 4-1 method, depending on who's saying it. I am first showing the all-in. As you can see, we are just straight up pummeling the boss. Be mindful of this nuke the boss is going to try and set off. He does this once per circle. You definitely want to shut that down via heavy attacks, or it will literally kill everyone in your group. If you are the only one in the center because you're doing the 1-4 method, then you are going to immediately start doing heavy attacks to stop this from happening. But beyond this, there are a few other attacks to watch out for because you are in close proximity. The boss has a ranged attack where he does this 180 and shoots this green vine out or something. The other attack, he sticks his arms in the ground and then they like come out in front of him. It's a bit shorter range, but it's got this like wide spread to it. It can be hard to dodge. This is usually the attack that gets me. Hurts quite a bit. Once you figure these attacks out, this fight is much easier. Finally, at a certain point, he will start burrowing underground, only surfacing to do this diving attack where he goes back in to, again, burrow around. If you are the only one in the center, you are obviously his target that he's going to attack. Blocking does work here, but I much prefer rolling around because I'm in light armor and it's rather easy to dodge. Medium and heavy users will likely prefer blocking. If you are fast enough, you can hit him with a ranged attack during his jump. I sometimes get some throwing axes off if I get the timing right. It is pretty difficult though. The other thing you can do is if you have a fire staff user, they can hit them underneath the ground with a fireball, which is some good information to have. Now on the outside of the circle, there will be a group of 3 enemies that spawn in 4 different spots. This starts close to the path you came in from. From here, it will go clockwise. If you are fast enough, you can make it to the next group before they spawn. What is more likely going to happen is you can get the first couple of groups down just fine, but then the last couple of groups might not be dead by the time the walls come down, and then the boss is back in play for everyone. In this instance, having a group CC like Gravity Well ready to go will be a really good thing to do. Makes mopping them up much easier. While also getting some damage back on the boss. Most groups at this point can do all in on the second wall. The cycle basically starts repeating itself right here. If you have to do 1-4 again, that sucks, but it happens. Recognizing your group's capability is very important. Instead of just smashing your head against a wall repeatedly, trying to do the same thing over and over again, it might be better just to swallow your pride in an effort to move on. Afterwards, you'll run forward into this room. The person with the branch from the tree we planted will start up this brazier right here. Someone then lights a torch for the back wall, which burns away the vines. This will then reveal another hall. In this area, we are only interested in a named on the right side. There will be a hive on the left side, and you can actually completely avoid this if you pull with a ranged attack. Even if you get some of the trash associated with it down there, it's really not that big of a deal. At the same time, there's another enemy that spawns near where the Caretaker boss was, that we just defeated. In an ideal run, we will pull both of these named mobs together where the brazier is and start attacking them at the same time. Now, your torchbearer can drop the torch by simply just clicking their mouse so they can assist in DPS, but once you kill them, the next areas that we're going to go through, your torchbearer is going to just have to hang on to the torch. So generally you want to pick your weaker DPS person for this role. Hopefully you realize you shouldn't pick your tank or your healer. If you kill this mob that spawns along the wall right before this next vine door, it makes running back a lot easier in the event of a respawn. And be warned, once you get past this door, you start getting blighted, so knowing where you're going is pretty important. Ideally, as soon as you get through this door, you can go around this rock and pretty much hug the tree to avoid aggroing the soldier near here. We avoid, again, whatever fight we can. Run up the stairs on the right, and then fight the archer posted up there that you aggroed on the way up. Go down the right side as well, and then jump over the ledge. If you jump too far on the right, there is a chance you will get stuck behind those like fallen rocks, so you gotta be mindful of that. At the bottom, we just blitz this group of mobs near the vine door. The torchbearer can hopefully get past them just fine. You will aggro an archer near that brazier that you're lighting, but it's a good idea just to run back to your group and help them mop up. After killing that, you're going to take care of the archer, loot the chest near the brazier you just lit, and then jump over the wall. Pull the mobs from each side of the dungeon together. This will include 2 named enemies. Afterwards, you can loot the chest on the far right side where you came in. From here, we are headed to the final boss. When you're running through this area, if you need the checkpoint that's right here, you need to run a bit closer to it to actually activate it. If you miss this, running back kind of sucks because you have to go all the way back to right before the Caretaker fight. The final boss, though, is a pretty straightforward fight with minimal mechanics, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. So she has a few attacks that you need to be aware of. She's got an attack where she focuses this poison beam on you. After a few seconds, it creates this pretty large circle on the ground that does quite a lot of damage over time. You need to be careful of this because if you're a melee user and this happens while you are attacking, you will basically make it to where only ranged users can damage her. So if you see this happening to you, you need to back up as fast as you can and kind of like hug along the wall. This will allow everybody to keep attacking her that does use a melee attack. One of her strongest attacks is a body slam. This can be really hard to read, so a lot of the time for myself, I will opt to use my range throw with my hatchet, especially early on because that had the potential to one-shot me when I was going through Genesis. She will also drop boulders from the ceiling at a certain point. You'll notice these like ring on the ground that's right on top of somebody, so if you notice that around you, you gotta dodge out of the way. If you can, always try to be around the center of the arena when this starts happening or when you think it's about to happen. You'll get a better feel for it as you run this dungeon more and more, but you will need these for her to hide behind for her massive nuke attack. If they're in the center of the area, then it's just easier to get to for everyone. This boss also has an attack where they burrow underground, tries to attack from underneath. If you get the timing right, you can get a couple throwing hatchets off. Not sure about other ranged attacks, definitely able to get at least one in though if you are ready for it. And finally, the massive AoE I talked about. After charging up for like 5 seconds or so, maybe a little bit more, she will set off this massive explosion. And anyone behind the boulders she dropped beforehand will be safe, and everybody else, not so much. Alright, that's pretty much it for Garden of Genesis. Hopefully this makes things a bit easier to understand regarding speedrunning it, and you gain expertise quickly in doing so. Subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. I love you all. Goodbye.